In this video, we're going to take a look at more comic book investing tips from Warren Buffett. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, I'm going to look at 5 more tips by Warren Buffett for investing and apply them to comic book collecting. Now, if you guys didn't happen to see the video I did last week, I pulled up this article that was top 10 tips for investing by Warren Buffett. And I took a look at 5 of them and I applied it to the comic book collecting hobby. And in this video, I'm going to pick back up from where I left off and take a look at the other 5 tips. Now, if you guys didn't happen to see that video, I'll put a link in the description or annotation, and you can kind of go back and forth and see what kind of lessons that we learn from Warren Buffett as they relate to comic book collecting. But before I can get into the 5 tips, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment, subscribe if you're enjoying my content. Love interacting with you guys. It's been a lot of fun engaging with everybody. And not to mention that I still have my 1,000 subscriber giveaway contest going on right now. Now, I hit the 1,000 subscriber mark by the time I am doing the recording of this video. So, thank you guys so much for everyone who subscribed. But I'm actually going to keep the competition going, or the contest going, up through Saturday morning. That is 1-16 by 9 a.m. So that'll be the close of the contest. So as long as you like, comment, and subscribe on that video, which I'll put a link in the description or annotation or wherever I put it, as long as you do it by 9 a.m., 1-16 2021, then you will be eligible to win one of the, I think, 3 books. I think I'm going to be giving out 3 books. So, but we'll see if we get to that number of 1,100. Anyways, that being said, if you could do one of those things, would really appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. All right. With that being said, let us get into this video today. And that is going to be me taking a look at 5 tips for investing by Warren Buffett and see what we can learn from it and sort of apply it to comic book collecting, because I think that there's a lot of things that, cross over when you think about, investing in stocks versus investing in comic books. And, it's really interesting to talk about and just, good food for thought as we, dive into our love for this hobby. All right. With that being said, let me pull up the article just so you guys have context to what it is. And then I actually took the bullet points out and put them into slides. So, just a little bit easier to watch for you guys. But needless to say, I'm going to sort of re-emphasize what we saw in the article. So anyways, here is the article here. And again, this is from a stock investing site called Simply Safe Dividends, and it is called the top 10 pieces of investment advice from Warren Buffett. And the article did a great job kind of bulleting them out and sort of analyzing, how each apply to us. And I'm going to take a look at it here within terms of comic books. So with that being said, let us take a look at the first tip for this video, and that is going to be: know the difference between price and value. Know the difference between price and value. Okay, so this is a really cool tip, maybe the most important one of the batch. Know the difference between price and value. Well, what does he mean by this? Well, what Warren was kind of getting at is saying this is that, like the stock market, like in comic books, prices are never stagnant. They're always going up and down. They're always inflating and moving and yo-yoing up and down, depending on what is going on in the market, how it's moving, depending on what's going on surrounding, the cultural aspect of the market or the news within regards to the market. So one thing that you have to remember is when you're pursuing a certain book, you have to know the difference between the price of the book and the value of the book, because there could be a hot book out in the market. Let's, say Silver Surfer #1, and if you go to resources like Key Collector or Go Collect or, any place that has like a, comic pricing guide or whatever, they'll have what they consider fair market values for those books. So let's say, a certain book is $100 fair market value. Well, there's that aspect to it, which is like, this is what, the market has determined as a, what the going rate should be for this book. Now, with that being said, if you were to go to eBay and find, that book online, the price, the actual, number that you would have to commit in order to attain that book may not be $100. It may be, fluctuating. It may be like 110, 120, 130, could be really, really high for that given day. So there is a difference between value and price. And when you are pursuing a book or you're looking to acquire something, it's really important to understand the value so that you don't get it at a price that is more than the value, because you never want to like buy something that is, over the value, and then you're sort of like left in the hole when you're holding onto the book. So that is something that's really important to understand before you ever, commit to buying a comic that you're after. Understand the value, because you want to make sure that the value and the price are pretty close before you pull the trigger. All right, with that being said, let us move on to tip number 2. And tip number 2 is going to be: investing isn't rocket science, but there is no easy button. Investing isn't rocket science, but there is no easy button. Apparently I can't talk right now. Okay, so what did Warren mean by that? Well, he was saying that, at the end of the day, there's really no correlation to, being, some super genius and being successful in the stock market. It's really just sort of about like understanding the market, paying attention to the news, paying attention to the trends. And I think that, that sort of goes with comic books, just sort of if you pay attention to the news, pay attention to the trends. You look at what's going on in the market as far as like the MCU and how that has an effect on the books and how that moves their prices. I mean, you, like anyone else, can be very successful for speccing on books. I mean, I'm someone who talks about spec books and talks with you guys about what are the hot comics, but I'm just a guy who loves the hobby. I don't have any more information or access to information than you guys have. I just sort of read the news and think about what storylines could be coming to the MCU and what characters could be related to that, and I watch other contributors to the hobby and the community, and I just understand what's going on, and for that reason I've been very successful with acquiring spec books that have actually panned out for me. So again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to spec on books within the comic book market, but there is no easy button. It just takes a little bit of work and paying attention to what people are saying and what is going on. All right, let's move on to tip number 3 now. And tip number 3 is going to be: the best moves are usually boring. The best moves are usually boring. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, this is something that's interesting because, what Warren was saying in terms of stock investing, sometimes the best moves as far as an investment and return on your money are concerned is, investing in things that aren't very sexy. It's not always going for like, oh, that hot startup company, or that like very cool, entertainment company, like a video game company, or something that's, more fun. Sometimes it's about getting that boring, manufacturer that makes toothbrushes, or something that's, really mundane. And this is kind of a cool tip as it relates to the comic book collecting stuff, because, I think every week we get new hot books that come out, right? Like there's new, new Donny Cates, new Venom, new, Star Wars, new Thor, new King in Black. And those, I would sort of equate to the like sexy picks and the sexy stocks that come out week after week after week. But what Warren is saying here is, sometimes the best investments are the ones that, aren't necessarily the hot books, but the ones that are just sort of known products. Like, instead of flocking to, The Last Ronin or all the getting all the King in Black stuff, you may just be better off like buying something that already has value within the community. And maybe it's a book that's, 5 years old or 3 years old or, 20 years old, but it's the same monetary value as like the new stuff. It's just not as like hot of an item. So what Warren was saying here is sometimes the best investments are boring. Now, disclaimer, buy whatever you want. I mean, if you want to pursue a book. But if we're talking about it for, economic reasons and investing and return on your investment, that might be something that is better to go after the boring thing than the hot thing. All right, let's move on to tip number 4 now. And tip number 4 is going to be: low-cost index funds are sensible for most investors. Low-cost index funds are sensible for most investors. Okay, what do I mean by this? Well, for those who don't know, if you guys, I'm sure people out there who are in the stock market understand what index funds are, but let me try to quickly explain. Index funds basically are, groups and companies that basically, they through algorithms and through analyzing the market, they basically hedge everything, and they buy, like, let's say they buy like just the top stocks of certain companies. So instead of like me saying I'm going to buy Apple, Amazon, Facebook, I can like invest in what is called an index fund, like a Vanguard index fund, and they'll just buy stuff for me that they've determined is, generally speaking, good returns. And so sometimes, like, to relate to the last point, those can be kind of boring and not as fun to go after, but usually, typically speaking, they have a better track record of growing slowly and steadily versus like picking the right hot company that grows massively or having a miss on a random company that you invest in. So how does that relate to comic books here? If we're talking about index funds, well, I guess that would be something similar to the fact that, like, for most people, if we're talking about an investment, basically you're probably better off just getting, just blue chip certified books that, year after year, we just know are always going to have significance in the market. So, we're talking about first appearances of classic characters, whether they're from the Silver Age or the Bronze Age or Copper or whatever. Just making sure that you're getting these books that have steadily grown over the years and are always going to have a cultural significance versus chasing the very, very hottest, latest spec book, or, going to Key Collector and seeing, oh, okay, what are the top 20 trending, instead of chasing those things, just pick like a good classic Silver Age book that has like, is a timeless comic that everybody loves. So I think that sort of tip would apply to, as far as growing your comic book equity and growing the value of your collection. Sticking to things that are tried and true are usually going to be more successful than going after hot stuff. All right, let us go on now to the last tip of Warren Buffett's top 10 tips for investing in the stock market as I relate it to comic books, and that is going to be only listen to those you know and trust. Only listen to those you know and trust. All right, so what do I mean by that? Well, I think this one is pretty obvious, and that basically this tip is basically, Warren, he has like personal people that he talks to, and generally speaking, he really only follows their advice when he decides on what to invest in. And, or similarly, there are people who, only invest in what Warren Buffett invest in because, like, this guy must know something. I trust him. He's made a lot of money. I'm just going to follow what he has to say. So, as you guys watch this video and you guys think about what books to spec on and everything like that, only spec on things that you yourself like and if you're getting advice from other people in the community, only really listen to the people that you know and trust. And this includes me too. I mean, like, I'm just a guy. Like, I'm just, I have my own opinions on stuff, and I'm not, don't listen to me all the time, like, cause I'm not always right. Like, only pay attention to the people that you feel like are trustworthy in their tips and advice and their spec. And at the end of the day, be your own filter with all that information, because you never want to like spec on something because, someone hyped you up on it and whatever, and you got excited and then you bought it and then you kind of regret that. I mean, that's like a really, really terrible feeling. So, it's better that you are buying the things that, you've thought about yourself and you really used your own filters and you prevented your FOMO and you decided that this is going to be the thing that I believe in, and go after those things. And then that way, if it doesn't hit, I mean, you won't feel bad about it because you won't feel like you got, swayed or sold into chasing a spec book. It's something that you yourself felt like was a good purchase at the time. All right. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. Those are 5 more tips for investing as they relate to comic book collecting. Now, if you guys didn't see the other video, I did another video last week for Warren Buffett's other 5 tips. If you guys want to see that, I'll put a link in the description or annotation. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Drop me a like or comment or subscribe, and be sure to check out the 1,000 subscriber giveaway video if you want a chance to win one of those books. Thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next video.